What's going on, guys? I'm back with another installation video. I'm finally going to show how to install the Rise4 Remap kit for the PS5 controller. And for those who don't know what the Rise4 is, it's ExtremeRate's 4-button remap kit. To be more specific, it's 2 paddles and 2 buttons in between. I recently bought the new galactic purple controller. It's the new model number, which has the little A right after the W, which means it's a BDM-20, which is shown on the motherboard. A BDM-10 would have no A and would just end with the W. So since I finally got a BDM-20, I'm gonna do a 020 installation for this video, and then later on I'll upload a video for the 010 installation of the Rise4. Before I start, if anyone is interested in buying the Rise4 or any products on the Gaming Cobra website, if you use my code Im.A.Caveman, you can get a 10% discount, or you can also click on my referral link and the discount would be automatically applied during checkout. I'm also going to have some Amazon affiliate links for some ExtremeRate products, and if anyone is interested in getting some tools, then I'll have some down in the description as well. First thing you're going to see, and this is the one that I chose, I got the matte black back shell. The next thing is going to be the trigger cables, and this is so you can remap your R1, L1, R2, L2. And you can see on some of them it shows BDM-20 or BDM-10. You're gonna have to cut off the ones that you're not gonna use for your control. So if you have a BDM-20 control, you're gonna cut off the 010. It also includes a paper which shows where you would find the model number and the BDM number. The other side explains which cables you should cut for your controller, and then once you do cut the cables, you can actually match it up to the paper. Next are some tools and screws. This is the back piece, paddles and buttons, and the last thing is going to be your remap board, the cable that connects the control to the remap board, and the trigger cables. And if you're going to remap your touchpad L3 and R3, it has these little cables as well. Before I continue any further, this is the non-soldering version, so I'm not going to install the cables for remapping the touchpad L3 or R3 buttons. So that means I won't be connecting the little red cable or this thin one over here. This is the touchpad one, and this one's going to be for your L3 and R3, which again, I'm not going to install because I currently do not do soldering. By the way, guys, I already did test the Rise4 on the Galactic Purple controller already. Some things might not be packaged the way you see it on this video. Since I didn't remember exactly where the stuff belonged, I just wanted you guys to keep that in mind. I'll get started with installing the back piece. I'm gonna need to open the tools and screws package. I'm gonna put this aside for now. There's going to be 2 kind of black screws. I rearranged them a little bit so you guys can see the difference. These smaller, thinner ones are gonna be used to screw on the remap board, which you only need 2. And this is the one that you're gonna use to screw the back piece on. And here you can see the size difference. Mine included 3 extra silver screws, which are the ones that are used to close your controller. The controller has 4 of them. You can still use the original ones. So in case you ever do need these, I brought 3 of them. These are the parts for the back. The one I'm going to need right now is this one. This is the one that you're going to screw onto your back shell. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab this piece and align it with the holes. You can move it around a bit. You'll feel when it's in place. You could even see through the holes now. All I have to do is grab one of the bigger looking screws and put 4 of them on all 4 holes. Once that's done, this can be put away to the side, and the other pieces as well. Now I can start the disassembly process. I'm going to start by digging under the R1 button. I can use this prying tool. You can see how it grips right under, and then you can push up. Just make sure you have a finger on top of the button so it doesn't fly out. Same thing for L1. Next, I'm going to take off the strip. I need to just try and dig right underneath it. There can be a little gap where you can do that, and you can either use your prying tool or anything you feel that can grip right under. Once that's done, you can keep pulling this up and it'll come off easily. Now you're going to see 4 screws. I'm going to get those screws out, then I can get the back shell off. After that, there's two locks at the front of the control. You can use your prying tool to just push this out a tiny bit. And you can see when it's unlocked. Now I'm gonna need a prying tool, something to be able to get in here. When this is unlocked, you can actually start to pull them away a bit. Usually it's here where it really gets stuck, and that's where you gotta dig in here. Kind of move back and forth. You can apply some pressure. You see how it opens up now? And you just gotta do the same thing with this side as well. When all that is done, I'm gonna be able to grab on one side here on the grip and then pull the back shell towards the top side, and it'll be able to come off. First thing I'm gonna do once the controller is open, I'm gonna grab the battery. I can just pull this up. You can see the connection right here. I'm gonna try my best not to pull it from the wire. I'm gonna try and grip on this little piece here. You can see this is more white than the connection on the board. So maybe I'll try and use a fingernail, or if I'm doing it through the wire, just wiggle left and right while pulling up. The next thing is making sure that this cable comes out of that slot right here. You can do this one of two ways. If you don't want to remove it from the slot, you can disconnect it, but I prefer to do it this way. I'll try and grip it on the silicone pad, then take it out that way. You can see it's out. The next thing is taking off this screw so that the battery holder can come off, which is this whole black piece. To remove the holder, I'm going to move this cable out of the way, move it to my left. I'm going to grab it like this, carefully paying attention to these wires, other side too, and just carefully pick it up. These are the trigger cables that connect to the board. These are the ones that are going to get replaced with the new ones. So to do that, you can see that I can grip on this little blue piece. I'm going to grab it and then just pull up. If it seems kind of hard to take it out, I'll wiggle it left to right while pulling up. If I'm ever going to grab it from the cable on the white part, again, I'll move left to right just a tiny bit while pulling up, and it should come out easily. This is the touchpad cable that connects to the board. I'll grab onto the blue piece. This one can be a little tough. Again, wiggle and pull up. I'm going to disconnect this cable as well, which is for the front mic. Now there's two tiny locks on the right and left side. You can see one behind the battery connection. All you have to do is push that outward. You can see how the motherboard starts to kind of lift up from the right side. I also have my thumb here so that I can push it up a little bit. Here's the one on the left, push it out. Now I'm using my thumb to lift the motherboard up a little bit. Once the motherboard is free from the locks, I'm going to be able to flip the motherboard over. Sometimes it can get stuck because of the thumbsticks. So if that happens, you can always push on the thumbsticks like this to help the board come out. Now I'm going to grab this connection. The back has a sticky part here. You're going to be able to peel this off. And when you are going to stick it, this is how the battery would be placed. And it would be placed on the board like this. If you guys don't want to take this whole thing off, then what I did when I was testing it, I had folded this piece here like that. Or you could even fold it more. You could always do the same thing on the other side and then just stick it. So I'm just explaining of ways that you would be able to stick it however you'd like if you ever plan on using the remap kit on a different control and you want to use the same one. So that's just an idea for some of you guys. But for the video, I'm going to take the whole thing off and then stick it to the battery. But that part comes later on. You're going to have this cable facing this way. We're going to need to place this part on top of this film. So you can see I have two holes on the left and right side. That's going to be able to go in right there. Now I'm going to use my tweezers just to push it down a little further. I'm doing it very carefully and very lightly. This should look something like this. Once that's done, you're going to be able to flip your motherboard back in. Just pay attention to this cable, make sure it doesn't get in the way. The other thing to look out for is the cable on the bottom. What I'm going to do is flip the motherboard, give myself some space for the bottom so that I can grab onto the cable. Once you see that the cable can't go underneath, I'm going to make sure that this cable is on top of the motherboard. Now I'm going to push down on the board and you should hear some clicks because of the locks on the sides, and that should be good. I'm going to reconnect my touchpad cable, the front mic, And now I move on to the next step, which is cutting my trigger cables, the ones that I don't need, and that would be BDM-010. My controller or board is a BDM-020, so I'm keeping these. And you can see it has an indicator of where to cut, so I'm just gonna cut it right there. If you guys didn't spot that, I accidentally cut through this cable as well, and I want you guys to see that so that you don't make the mistakes that I can make sometimes. Everybody makes those mistakes, and that's why I always encourage you guys to be careful. Luckily, I don't need that cable, but if it was the 020, it would have completely messed up my kit, at least for the L1, L2 triggers. And for the right trigger cables, I'm just going to cut one. That's going to be this one right here. To place the L1, L2 triggers, I'm gonna need to fold this cable like this. So this connection is going to be connected on the trigger. This one can go in pretty easily. If it doesn't, do a little wiggle. Now that I got that one in, I need to connect this one to the board connection. I'm gonna have to fold it just like that. And now I'm gonna be able to connect it. The next one is the R1, R2 cable. This side will go towards the trigger. The connection is right here. This one will go on the board. And usually I like to double check to make sure that my connections are fully in. I need to put my battery holder back on. A few things I'm going to look out for while doing that. I need to make sure that this black cable, the trigger cables, and the back mic cable are going to be on top of the battery holder. This black cable, I'll put it under the control for now. And another thing is also the rumble or vibration cables, which would be the black and red on the left and right side. I'm going to start by moving aside the cable on the left side. Then making sure that the cable on the right doesn't get caught underneath. After that, I'm gonna get the back mic cable to go on top of the holder. And you can see these ends right here are gonna keep the black and red cables underneath the holder. From there, I'll just make sure that everything seems correct and all my cables are on top. All I need to do now is put the screw back for the holder. This cable is going to go back in its slot right here. I'm going to grab it by the silicone and then slide this end into that gap that you can see right there. You can see through it. That's what it should look like once it's in place. The next thing I'm going to do is put my battery back in place. You can see there's 3 pins and they're mainly on the right side. You just gotta line that with your battery. Usually I like to double check to make sure that it's connected. The battery wires can go right in here. They'll be held in place that way. And the battery should be facing this way. Then just place it down. I can finally stick this down. I just gotta take this off. Now I'm gonna place it on the edge of the battery. After that, I'm gonna lift up these locks for the trigger cables. This one's for the L3 and R3, and again I'm not doing that, so I'm just gonna keep this one down. For the next step, I'm gonna connect the trigger cable for the R1, R2. You wanna make sure you get underneath the black cable. And you're gonna connect it right here. It slides in pretty easily. Once I do got it in there, I'm gonna try and use my nail to keep it in there by pushing on the black part. And then lock it down. just like that. To connect the L1, L2 trigger cable, I need to fold it going towards this way, and that's when you'll be able to fold it down. You'll see how this connection, the black part is facing towards you. That's what it should look like when you're going to connect it. Same thing as the other one. I'm just going to slide it in here. And then lock it down. Now I'm going to do a little test. I'm going to unlock this. To connect it, you can see the gold pins here. They're going to be facing under. Then I can just slide it into the remap board. Lock it down. And the only way that the remap board will turn on is if the controller is on. So I'm going to turn the controller on. This is the button that turns on the remap mode, the gold one right here. We're going to hold it down for like 3 or 5 seconds. The red light went on, so at least I know that I have power to the remap board. And now I can take it off. But first, since I actually haven't logged in, I can just press circle to turn the controller off. And now disconnect the remap board. For the next step, I'm going to bring back my back shell, the long black cable. I'm going to need to slide it through this gap. Once it's through, like I had shown earlier, I'm going to unlock this. The gold pins are supposed to be facing down. Slide it into the connection. Then lock it down. For the next step, I need my 2 paddles and 2 rods. It doesn't matter which paddle you choose to do first. I have the K1 right here. All you have to do is put your rod through the hole. Just like that. Same thing for the K2. On the back piece, you can see it shows K1, K2. K1 is going to go on the left side, and the rods are going to lock in place from the top and the bottom pieces. Once I place it on top, I can push down. You're going to hear 2 clicks because of one end going in and the other one as well. If your paddle seems like it's not going in, that's probably because your rod is sticking out a little too far, going towards the top or going towards the bottom. Now I'm going to need to slide my remap board in here. I'm going to bring my back shell up. You have these 2 pieces, one on the left and one on the right. On the board, there's a hole on the left and one on the right. Once you slide your board down, that's going to hold the board in place. If you guys remember earlier, I mentioned about a black, smaller, thinner screw. I need to grab 2 of them so that I can screw the remap board down. That's how you get your paddles and the remap board installed. The next step is going to be closing the controller. So what I'm going to do is push the top part of the back shell. I'm going to push it in towards the L1 and R1. And then after that, I'm just going to push going towards the bottom. So just press down throughout all of the left and right side. You're going to hear some clicks. Remember, you got your 2 locks right here. Just push those together. You can see that fell into place. I'm not going to screw it down yet. I'm actually going to get the back piece installed. This is my K3 and K4 buttons. This is the cover for the remap kit. You have 2 indicators. On the left you got K4, on the right you got K3. So what I'm going to do is slide my button under this part, and then it's going to end up on top right here. All you got to do is place it down. It does come off very easily, so I need to hold it while I'm doing the other button. This is the cover for my LED indicator. I'm going to slide it under the top part. You can see I'm able to place it down. That one's going to fall into place and it doesn't come off. And the last thing is my remap button. You can see how you're supposed to align the button with the back. I can just place it down. It also comes out very easily. To put the cover on, I need to try and hold the sides so that the buttons don't come off. I like to start by placing it on the bottom and then bringing my controller down. Once I got that, you can see my buttons aren't coming off, or the remap button. Then I'll push the top part. You'll hear some clicks and the top is on. and the remap kit is now completed. My controller is on, so I guess I'll just test it out again just in case. Maybe something happened to the cables. Everything's good. My LED is on. I'll just turn it off. Now I can finally close up the controller. I'm going to put the screws back on. So you should have 4 silver screws. I'm going to install my R1 and L1 buttons. You can see this gap right here. You have to get these 2 parts inside that gap. Next is my trim. I need these 2 ends to go in here. Once I got it in, I'm going to push down on the trim. Slide my finger on the left side. Slide my finger on the right side. Then push down right here in the middle. And my controller is now completely assembled. Now that I'm done with the installation, I'm going to explain how the Rise4 works. So to turn the kit on, your controller needs to be on. I'm going to turn on the remap mode. I'm going to hold this button down. And just remember guys, you only need to turn this on if you're going to remap. If you're not remapping, turn it off so that you can use your buttons. Once it is on, if I want to remap my K2 with circle, I'm going to hold circle and my K2 down at the same time. You're going to see the little red dot. It's going to blink 3 times because that means you programmed it with circle. That was 3 quick blinks. If you hold down circle and K2 again, it's going to leave the K2 blank. And it does 3 slow blinks. 3 slow blinks means that your paddle is unprogrammed and it's blank. So now if I want K1 with X, I'll press X and K1 together. 3 quick blinks, same as last time, all unprogrammed, X and K1. There we go, K1 is blank. And the same thing goes for K3 and K4. This time I'll do K3 and R2 at the same time. That's gonna give me 3 quick blinks. K3 is now R2. Maybe I want to do a D-pad. Let me try left D-pad and K4. Hold it down at the same time. There we go. So once you're done remapping, what you have to do is hold your button down. And now your back buttons are going to be able to activate. Again, if it's on, it's not going to work because you're on remap mode, which means your buttons won't activate. Because I didn't do the soldering version, I won't be able to remap R3, L3, or touchpad. And the other buttons that you can't remap regardless are the shares and options buttons, and also the PS menu and the mic. The ones you can remap are all your action buttons, D-pad, and all your trigger buttons. Also, if for some reason you want to have 1 button on all the 4 buttons, or maybe even just on 2, like say you want X on your K1 and K2, you can do that. Right now I tried it by programming circle with the paddles and both buttons. So all 4 of them are circle right now. I could probably also do something like X and X, circle and circle, or circle, circle, X, X, or whatever pattern you like it at. Now I'm just going to give my opinion, what I think about the kit. After using the metal buttons and with the switches that the metal one has, personally I would have liked those same switches from the metal kit on this one, but I guess maybe they didn't do that because the paddles are plastic, and I'm pretty sure they're going to end up releasing the metal Rise4, and that's the one that I actually can't wait for because my favorite are the metal paddles. They just feel really good and you need to apply more pressure on the switches for that one. For the K3 and K4, they have a clicky sound to it, and it's not that annoying, especially since I do have a headset on when I'm playing, but personally I'm not into clicky sounds, so if they had one that wasn't clicky, I would have preferred to have that one. What I do like about the redesigned paddles is that it has more of a natural curve. The V1, V2 and metal paddles had more of a bend to it. Here you guys can see the difference. Here's the metal one also. You can see natural curve and more of a bend on the metal. So it's not that it's annoying with the V2 or the metal ones, but the natural curve on the Rise4 just feels a little smoother or a little better. But that's for me. It could be different for everybody else. I still like using the V2 or even the metal one. The paddles feel very firm. For my metal, for some reason they're a little wobbly. If I were to just kind of move it like this, on the metal one you would be able to see how it moves. So let me show you here. And you can see how with the Rise4 it wasn't doing that, and I'm not even actually pressing the button, I'm just lightly tapping it. I like that it's like that. I wish that the metal ones weren't wobbly. The cool part about the K3 and K4 is that to activate them, I don't necessarily have to have my fingers right on top of the button to activate them. I can actually press them on the side. So if I'm playing, I'll just grab it from the side and push it down, or sometimes on the top. That's actually pretty nice because with the Hex Gaming Ultimate controller, with the 2 buttons in the middle that it has, you're not able to do that. You have to actually press on the top of the button. The last thing, installing the back cover with the button, the K3 and K4. You saw how easily the buttons can come off. If there's a way, make it a little more firm, a little more tight, so that those buttons don't come off as easily, at least. That'd be great. But I'm hoping that with the Rise4 metal kit, it'll be like the ultimate kit. Firm metal paddles and a little easier to install. That's what I'm hoping for. But I'm still excited to try that one out. But that's it, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the Rise4. I've been enjoying it. It's a bit of a learning curve having to use 2 extra buttons, K3, K4. So whenever I do end up switching to my metal one, I forget I don't have those extra buttons because the metal doesn't have them. If I wanted to, I could replace the plastic paddles for the metal ones. It would have also been nice to use the switches from the metal kit. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for the continuous support, and I'll be back with another one.